the season's over. We're fully entrenched in the offseason mode. I feel like this is the time of Brad Holmes, in my opinion.
Yep.
This is where we should be looking at Brad Holmes and kind of doing a better job of evaluating how he's going to do putting together this team. And so one of my first questions is that, Brad Holmes claims that, in this year for free agency, they're going to be more focused on acquiring talent. So my biggest question is, do you think that means that they're going to be targeting more like high profile, like big money type free agents? Or do you think it's more of a focus on, last year we saw them give out a lot of 1-year contracts. Is it going to be more of a focus of like, no, we're actually trying to give out like actual long-term contracts and build a more flushed out roster that can be competing year to year?
Yeah, it's a good question, and part of my answer here is going to be I don't know because it hasn't happened yet, and we haven't really gotten a true offseason, I feel like, for Brad Holmes, because last year came with a whole bunch of asterisks with the cap the way it was and the roster where it was. They were obviously, he went out and told us at the end of the year, like, last year was all about getting the young guys some playing time, so free agency just wasn't that big of a priority for him. This year it is. But it's interesting because I feel like he was asked a somewhat similar question that you just asked, and his answer was kind of interesting. He was like, I'm still kind of looking for the same kind of guys, where
Mhm.
the chip
Right.
on the shoulder guys, right? The guys that have something to prove. And so that kind of made me think maybe they aren't going to make a huge, big name splashes. Maybe there is, Marcus Williams is kind of the one that I think everyone is circling as a possibility, since safety is such a big need, and the Saints, connection there with Aaron Glenn. But to me, it almost sounded like he's just looking for these guys that are willing to work really hard, these guys that will, have something to prove, and are willing to be part of what is still probably going to be a year or two more of rebuilding here. And
For
so
sure.
it might be tricky to land some of those top free agents with that knowledge. Obviously, you can throw a lot of money at people and they'll change their mind real quick, but
Yeah.
I really don't think that's what we're going to see, unless, maybe just one or two. The one thing I will say is we probably will see more than just 1-year deals this year, because they have some flexibility there. They don't have to be as concerned about cap down the line now that they're getting some of those big contracts off the books. So I think we'll see maybe some 2-3 year deals, but I wouldn't expect anything like, $70-80 million deals to anybody at this point, other than maybe a safety splash.
So we should probably like people shouldn't, be focused on Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, like kind of just like take those guys off your list and just kind of be more focused on.
No Kirk. No Kirk.
Yeah, Christian Kirk. Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised, not completely shocked. I mean, if Antoine Randall had his way, apparently he'd draft all the wide receivers and sign them all. But I really do think, the one thing that Brad Holmes continues to say is we have a very strict plan that we're adhering to. There's this entire plan, and everything that he said publicly, and granted, he doesn't give up a lot of public knowledge. Like, Dan Campbell is a guy who has loose lips, I think, both to his benefit and his detriment at times. Brad Holmes, not that guy at all. But everything I get the sense of is he's taking things slow, and he's not going to do anything drastic, and he's going to take things methodically. And I think that's probably the smart way to do it right now, because spending a bunch on flashy free agents, I don't know if that's the right move for where this team is at right now. They're not in a place where they can add some guys and suddenly compete for the NFC North, or suddenly compete for, an NFC championship or anything like that. So free agency will have its time, but I think, a lot of people like to point to the Bengals, a team that just made the Super Bowl, and they did make a couple free agent splashes at this point in their rebuild. I think they got DJ Reader at this point. And then they got a couple more the following year, this year. But I'm just not sure if the Lions are ready to do that, both in terms of their cap space and in terms of where the roster is at.